What's up, guys? We are back. We are back with reviews finally, and we're back with a big one. And we are in unfamiliar territory because we're in the upcoming toy space. This is post-move, mid-chaos, because it doesn't stop. It's been awful. So I'm gonna try to take some breaks and work on the toy room, but of course I gotta talk about toys. I've gotta dig into stuff that's coming, and we've got ThunderCats coming, so of course I gotta start there. And we're taking a look at the big one for this wave, literally and figuratively. We're talking SLITHE today. So of course he comes in your standard mailer box type situation, and I have yet to actually even pop this open. Haven't done anything. This is a live, it's a live recording of the unboxing for me. So I saw this guy at PowerCon, and I'm very much excited about this one, but I've not seen the finished product yet. So you pop this guy out, and he's huge. So, I mean, you can see the box on this one is much bigger than usual because he's such a big boy. You've got the wrapping on him. So we'll pull him out. You've got mumm-ra's emblem there on his box, which of course is done up with the foil on this one. You've got the ThunderCats logo on the back, black and red motif, very simple as far as the ultimate stuff goes. It's not nearly as crazy as the turtle stuff is, for example. And then pop the slip cover off, and we've got him there in all of his glory. So you've got SLITHE there back in that box. He takes up a ton of real estate. You've got the ThunderCats logo there on the bottom. You've got some new artwork on the back panel with a bio for the leader of the mutants. So let's do it. Let's pull him out and take a look. And here he is out of the package, our SLITHE figure. So this guy represents a lot of things right now when it comes to ThunderCats. He is the first new figure that I've taken a look at since Wave 1 came out from Super7 last year. It's been over a year since I got my hands on Wave 1. It has been 5 years since ThunderCats in this form began, when Mattel started ThunderCats Classics. And of course, this is the first real new figure that we have gotten since that point, because everything in Super 7's Wave 1 was a reissue, an upgrade, because they are Ultimates now, obviously, but they're the same figures. So this guy is the newness, really, and I'm really excited to take a look at him just because he is so different. Not just because this is the first ThunderCats figure that I've gotten to take a look at in a while, but because he is so wildly different from everything else. He is an entirely different form factor when it comes to this line, Ultimates in general, really. He's very different from just about everything we've seen so far. So let's see what he can do, see how he moves around. He's going to be different. I think he's still pretty well articulated. There might be 1 or 2 things I wish had been done here, but overall I'm pretty happy with this guy. So he's got a weird head to start with because he's sort of a hunchback. He hunches forward, so you've got his head that sticks right out from his body. He's not sitting on a neck. His neck is forward. So it's one of those kind of figures. So you've got a head that can swivel side to side really well. He looks up a little bit too, which I think is good considering how squat he is, but he can look down really well. And then of course you can rotate, but it's one of those, I mean, it looks funky, but it does work. It's just the way he's designed. Arms go out at the shoulders, but only about that far. I don't think that's, a limitation on the design specifically. I think it's just more along the lines of he's not that big or that, agile, really. So he's only going to move so much. Arms go all the way around, of course. There is unfortunately no bicep swivel, and I feel like there easily could have been on this. I don't know why there isn't. We've got our single jointed, so 90 degrees rotating elbow. You've got your hinges and rotation at the wrist. As far as the torso goes, this thing reminds me a lot of the Turtles from Super 7 in how they managed to get them to sort of move around inside their shells. So you've got the torso as one big piece. There's no diaphragm cut or anything like that. It's all one solid brick. You've got the harness that sits over top of him, and it hides this joint. So right here is where the torso stops, and then you've got the hips that are kind of inside of it. So he can rock side to side. He goes backwards and forwards a little bit. Surprisingly, more than you might think. And then he twists all the way around. So he does have some pretty good movement. I kind of wish he had something at the torso. There's like the perfect cut right there, right at those big lizard pecs. Legs go out about that far. They kick forward all the way. They do kick backwards some. He's got ball hips, so you pretty much get him all over the place. You do have a thigh twist. It's kind of noisy, but you've got it. You've got single jointed knees, so they go backwards about this far. He does have some really small squat legs, so, you know, they do what they do. He's got those, you know, big monster calves back there, and they kind of stop him. So he goes about back 90 degrees, but he's kind of an odd shape to begin with, so you've got that. And then there is a little twist in there. We've got our forward and backward on at the ankle, and then you've got really solid rocker. I mean, you can break those ankles right there. And then as far as the tail goes, it is just a swivel. There's nothing else here. I'm not super beat up about it, but I would have loved to have seen like a bendy wire in this thing, if it's possible. Granted, I don't know if it's truly, you know, too big because it's a thick monster tail. But I'm glad it's not segmented. I don't really think that would have worked. It would have really destroyed the sculpt on this one. So he is pretty well articulated. Like, I don't really have too many issues with him. He's going to be a big kind of bruiser character on your shelf. He's going to stand there looking squatty and big and menacing, but I think he moves a little bit better than I expected in some regards. And then there may be, you know, one thing I kind of wish he had a bicep swivel just to you know, kind of emphasize that a little bit more. But otherwise, I am pretty happy with how this guy turned out. Despite how weird his body is constructed and how different he is, he does move very, very similarly in many ways to the rest of the line. You know what's coming next, though, of course. It's obviously the aesthetics, and this is where it usually matters most to me when it comes to these figures, because obviously I love to be able to pose them and to play around with them and for them to be able to move correctly and easily and dynamically. But if they don't look right, then I'm already out of it. And I can thankfully say that they pretty well nailed SLITHE here. I'm really happy with the way he turned out. He's got great size, the sculpt on him is tremendous, and the overall just accuracy to the design is a lot better than, well, anything we've ever had before, because, well, not only have we really never had anything before that even tried to be accurate, it is far and away a more accurate figure than, say, the vintage figure, which is similar, but it's wrong in its own kind of weird ways. So we've got a very different kind of figure, and I've said that a number of times already. We've got a very different kind of figure from what we've seen so far. So wave one was, you know, Lion-O, Panthro, Mumm-ra, and Jackalman, which are humanoid characters. SLITHE is obviously humanoid, but he is still very different from that type of character, where he has an entirely different kind of shape. He has a different sort of posture as well. So he's just a different kind of figure from anything we've seen so far. And I think Super7 really did a good job here. We've seen this, you know, across the board with anything they do when it comes to monsters or, you know, mutants, obviously with turtles and stuff like that. They really do a good job of making that kind of figure. And I think SLITHE is a really, really solid example of that. Not only are the colors here quite a bit more cartoon accurate, the green is a little bit more vivid and bright rather than that sort of brown that we got on the LJN figure. You've got even, you know, the sort of blue-gray hue on the mouth and the ears and the torso there. We've got all these spots that complement the scale work that's all over him. I love the huge sort of Stegosaurus-style spines that run down his back, all the big spots again, and then you've got sort of a little bit of hits of wash in the musculature on the back and the arms, the tail, and the legs, just to bring out a little bit of shading and just to make things pop a little bit more. It helps to sort of see those scales a little bit better, unless you're sort of bathing him in light like I am right now, where they all sort of pop. They might not otherwise. We do get the floating harness piece here, which is done up with sort of like a leather texture with the little amulet thing that sort of sits on the cross on the front. I do have a little bit of a paint flub on the belt area on mine. I'm assuming this is you know, it's brown, so this has got to be painted yellow. I'm assuming there's a little bit of just a paint smudge there, or lack thereof. It's not a huge deal. Nothing I'm gonna, you know, get crazy about, but it's worth mentioning at the very least. There is a little paint flub there. The tail looks really good, despite the fact that, you know, it's kind of a very non-dynamic piece. It does look really good. It's a very key characteristic of SLITHE himself. Tons of that scale work in there, more of that blue-gray. He's even got it on his feet as well, so they kind of went that far to make sure that it looks like that down below. And again, a lot of it with this figure just comes down to shelf presence, size, the styling of the figure, and how different he is, because he's going to draw your attention if you're just looking at a selection of ThunderCats that we have available. he's probably going to be the one you look at first because he is so big. He's not tall big, but he's wide big. He's really beefy. He's really girthy. I mean, he's super thick from front to back, especially up top. So he is top heavy, but not in a sense that it's going to cause balance issues or anything like that. I just think they really nailed it. And then really the big thing with this figure in general, though, is the head sculpt, because it's just so cartoony. It looks exactly like what you think when it comes to the ThunderCats cartoon, and it really gives off a lot of that Rankin Bass animation style. This thing, he's probably going to look really good alongside, anything from like the Lord of the Rings. Make him look like a Rankin Bass Lord of the Rings goblin almost, because I think they really did a good job here. Those ears, the kind of dragon-like ears, the headdress with that red jewel, very clean and crisp paintwork on that, and then the teeth that sort of stick out the jowls on his face, I think look really nice. White and black on those eyes, really contrasting. They pop against each other, and frankly, he just looks really good. That's ultimately what it comes down to. I could have saved a few minutes and just said he looks good and be done, but there's a lot of little things about this figure that sort of add up to make him so much fun to just sit and stare at. So I think Super7 really knocked this one out of the park. It's a great sculpt. Really solid paint applications, except for that little thing right there, which isn't a big deal otherwise. But he's a fantastic looking figure. He's gonna really accentuate the Cats display. Now, as far as accessories goes, SLITHE doesn't come with tons of stuff, but he comes with some pretty solid accessories as far as I'm concerned. They probably could have gone a little bit deeper on some weird deep cut stuff for this guy, but overall, I think we have this stuff that we're all probably going to want to use anyway, if that makes sense. So to start with, we get an extra head sculpt, and it's actually pretty simple to pop that off. Just sort of pry it off, really. There's a massive ball that's in his neck, so it's not going to go anywhere. And you've got this sort of like weird, sort of quizzical, surprised, slightly annoyed, in pain almost maybe, expression on his face where one eye's kind of squinted. You got the mouth open so you can see his tongue in there. And it's a really solid head sculpt. I think it's going to have a lot of varied uses when people get their hands on this guy to see what they can sort of put him in sort of situations to utilize this head and expression. So I do like that one. We get some extra hands. I've got one on him over here already. So you've got a set of these sort of just open palm sort of style pose hands. That's it though. I wish he came with fists. He only comes with 4 hands total, so gripping hands in the box and these sort of style pose hands on him though, but they do look good. I like the pose, and I love the attention to having that sort of blue-gray in the palms of his hands as well. And then we also get some weaponry here. So we get his axe. So you get this. This is different from the axe that Jackalman came with. So you get the axe, and this is very, very cartoon inspired. So it's got a super, actually pretty sharp point on the end there. So watch out for that. And you've just got sort of a standard axe blade on it as well. He can hold this just fine in either hand. My favorite accessory that he comes with, though, is this guy. So this is the LJN Vintage Toy inspired axe. So this is basically the exact same thing that the Vintage SLITHE came with. It's got this gnarly piece of wood for the handle and a very, very pitted and battle-worn blade that is just jagged beyond belief. So I really like this. It's not cartoon accurate by any means, but this one holds a special place for me just for nostalgic reasons, and that gets me pretty often and very easily. So this will probably be what I use for him, because I think it just looks a little bit more dynamic and more exciting than this. While this is very much in line with a cartoon look, this is just a more dynamic and interesting design to me. And then he also comes with the big sort of spiked club mace as well, and you can give this to a lot of folks, because we've seen this used, a lot of these things. Even the axe, the axe got used by some of the other reptilians and stuff like that. So if we ever get army builders, we might see this stuff again. And then you get this axe as well. So I do think that he comes with a pretty solid array of accessories. It's not a ton of stuff, and I'm assuming it's because he is pushing the upper boundaries of maybe the figure size when it comes to ultimates, and not raising the price to where mumm-ra or Monstar are going to be, things like that nature. But I do think he comes with some cool stuff. I really dig this extra head sculpt. It's really weird, and I like the extra hands. The only thing I really wish, again, that he probably should have come with is just some fists. I really think those need to be standard across the board on every single Ultimates release, just because every character utilizes their fists at some point. And I don't like using gripping hands rather as fists if I can avoid it. So otherwise, some pretty cool accessories, and at the end of the day, I am super, super happy that they included this. Now, of course, we have to do size comparisons just to give you an idea of how big this guy is. I'm really only going to do this within the line just because, I mean, I moved, everything is packed, it's a mess. So I found the stuff that truly matters, and we've got Lion-O here on the left. This is the Ultimates version, and then we've got Mumm-ra here on the right. This is the Big Bad Toy Store glow-in-the-dark one, but it's the same figure. So you can see that they sort of scale down as far as height goes. I mean, SLITHE is really only taller than Mumm-ra because of the spikes on his back, but it's all due to that big hunch that he has. And then if you want to, you know, do like a side profile kind of thing, you can see just how different they are when it comes to the overall kind of girthiness and beefiness of these figures. So SLITHE has a lot more mass from front to back by a long shot than all of these other figures. So he's maybe not as tall as some of them, but he does have a lot of shelf presence and just a lot of size in general when, you know, you take into consideration that Lion-O is a 7-inch figure and he is beefier than your Legends, your Black Series, or anything like that to begin with, and then SLITHE, you know, just sort of puts him in his place from a width and depth perspective. And then, of course, we have to talk comparisons between our vintage figure here on the left and our Super 7 figure here on the right. So this is the LJN figure, and you can see that they are very, very different, which is not to be unexpected, really. There's going to be really little similarities in terms of sculpt and overall design between these two lines. But to give you an idea of what we've got in terms of the figure that, you know, I had as a kid, this is my actual original SLITHE from when I was a kid, and you can see that he's not very accurate in many ways. There's a lot of stuff that's wrong with him in terms of colors, and then just overall design is a little off, and that's kind of true for a lot of the LJN toys. But SLITHE was an interesting figure because he was always so different from a lot of the other ones. He's different from the mutants. He's very big and beefy and just, you know, thick, really, because he is such a different type of creature. He's humanoid again, but he's not like the others in the same way. And then he even has sort of like the same issue that Donatello gets in the Vintage Turtles line, where he's brown instead of green. So you've got a very more brown-leaning SLITHE here versus a very green-leaning SLITHE here. They do, of course, share one similarity in that Super 7 did give the new SLITHE a very toy-inspired axe, which I absolutely love. This will be my go-to axe, I'm sure, because I love the toy axe for SLITHE quite a bit. So I'm really happy that they did that. It's an interesting little nod, something that I'm not surprised that they did. But I think that there is, you know, a lot to appreciate about both of these figures. Obviously, nothing will replace my childhood ThunderCats stuff, but it's nice to get a more updated, modern interpretation of a figure that has a lot more, you know, that is correct in terms of screen accuracy and just things that you remember from the cartoon versus stuff that was very much toy specific when it came to this old LJN line. So yeah, overall, very happy with this release. I think he's going to blow everybody away when they get their hands on him. He's likely going to be the star of this wave for sure. I don't see anybody else topping him. Captain Cracker maybe, you know, an underdog, I suppose, and then Jaga just because it's Jaga. But SLITHE is a very different kind of figure. He moves really well. He has a different kind of shelf presence and just an overall different look and feel compared to a lot of this stuff. But he's undeniably ThunderCats at the same time. So he very much is going to fit in with everything we've already gotten, but at the same time he's going to draw your attention a little bit better. I think the sculpt is fantastic. He moves well. He comes with a solid array of accessories, maybe a little light on accessories, but I'm assuming that's because he is a stockier, beefier figure, and I'm just really happy to finally get more of these guys in hand and to get moving with this line again. It's been so long since we've had new ThunderCats, and it's nice to sort of kick them off with a really, really solid figure. So that's going to do it for this look at the ThunderCats Ultimates SLITHE. Let me know what you guys think. Feel free to like, comment, subscribe, and share, and until next time.